Hello there, Trisha here. So our project is pen and watercolour wash. So we're just going to look at the pen section at the moment. This is our template that we're going to work on. It's down the bottom in the comments section, so if you click on there it will take you through to my art resources where the template is, and this is put onto an A4 sheet of paper. So transfer this onto A4 and you'll see in a minute quite near the top. I used a watercolour paper. You can use a smooth mixed media paper. It's up to you what you want to work on. Okay, so I've transferred this down using pencil, and you can see that I've already started drawing over a lot of the details. So I've drawn over the outer lines, apart from that outside edge, those little tiny petally shapes, and I've left those. But the inner circles and shapes I've traced over, and I've started to draw over with pen. The pens that I'm using at the moment are they're a technical drawing pen. You could use fine liner pens. These ones that I'm using are rotring, and they're the Tikky Graphic pens. The sizes that I've got here are 0.3, 0.5 and 0.7. You can see me going through the different sizes here depending. 0.3 is quite small, and 0.7 is much larger. The 0.7 is really nice for doing things like these little dots as you go around creating dots. If you go for the slightly smaller sizes, what you're kind of doing is creating little circles you're having to colour in. So the 0.7 is really nice for just dotting along. So what I've done is in the centre there you can see I've created those long petal shapes, and I've put some more ovally petal shapes in there, and then in between there the gaps I've filled with circles, and I've just drawn little circles in, and then I've really just coloured in around the circles with the black there. I've left that next ring, and then the next set of petals there I've drawn these petal shapes within them. And then I'm just going around the outside now, colouring those in with the black. It's quite a change as it goes through the video. The video is going really quickly because it took ages. It took a couple of hours to do this, which is fine, and is really nice, but it's a little bit boring to watch, so I've sped it up. If people are interested in seeing a slightly slower video, do let me know, and I can post some of it on, but you kind of get the idea here. And there's plenty of sections here, you can just pause and have a look what I've done. There is loads and loads of Zentangle, Zen drawing, mindful drawing, doodling online. There's absolutely tons of stuff, and there's loads of books and things as well. So once you've got that basic pattern from the beginning of the template down, then really it's up to you to fill it in however you want to. Go crazy as usual. You can see that I do start to sort of fill areas in, and then I come back and work in again and a bit more. So as you're working along, you might find that there's some bits that you think, oh, I could do a bit more in there and do a bit more. This is totally a chance to, do too much. As I said, I'm working with these rotring pens, and the reason that I'm working with these is because they're permanent pens. So they've got a pigment ink in, so once it dries, that's it. Because we want to put a wash on later, and we're going to do that in part 2 of the video. When you put the wash on, the pen won't move, it won't blur, it won't smudge, it won't go all over the place. It will stay put, and that's really nice if you're not sure what you're going to be doing afterwards on your drawing. It's a really nice way to just sort of get some ink down and then not have to worry. You can put whatever you want over the top when it comes to it. I'm having a little think here about what I'm going to do. Fill another bit in, let's go. there's all sorts of patterns in here, and once I've got some patterns in, as I said, I start working onto the top with the pen as well, just filling in areas and blocking in areas. I've worked on a watercolour paper. This is about 280 to 300 grams, this watercolour paper. It's got a slight ripple to it, which is really nice for watercolour. It isn't as nice for drawing on top of, so just bear that in mind. I'm not doing, although I'm doing a lot of drawing on here, I'm not trying to do textures and things on it or get certain marks. It is just lines all blocked in areas, so it doesn't really matter that it's not a smooth surface. If it bothers you drawing over a slightly rippled surface, then something like a Bristol board or a mixed media paper that's smooth is better, but make sure it's a good quality to add water on top of, so a nice thick heavyweight paper for later. You can see the patterns really changing once you start blocking in areas. I quite like using this blocking in technique just because sometimes you can start putting lots of lines and patterns and designs on, and then you start thinking it's looking quite messy, there's a lot of little bits everywhere. So actually blocking in some areas creates a bit of contrast between those lights and darks, which is quite nice. You can see it's made that middle section stand out now. Not being quite as precise here with my lines, so I should really be a bit more careful. But I quite like in that middle section there, having that contrast in there between that being really busy on each of those petals. Maybe I should have just left it as a completely white band. So you can see that I've also drawn down the bottom of the page, so I've put my template quite near the top section in portrait, and then down the bottom I've put some lines down and some little loops. So I'm going to work this round and kind of make this into like little beads and things. So this edge now, these tiny little petal shapes, I didn't go over these in pen at the beginning, I'd left these and I'm working along now just in dots, so rather than line work I'm just trying to keep these little dots, and you'll see hopefully it will turn into all little beads. Is the plan. I'm just moving through the sizes there, so I took that slightly larger pen first off to put the dots around the tips there, and now I'm just coming in joining those up with the slightly finer tip. You might also have had a go at one of my other projects, which is on my YouTube channel, which is the colour wheel. And you might find that if you've got the template for the colour wheel, that you could use that in here. And you could do all sorts of things. You could still do the colour wheel over the top for part 2 of the video, but you could put your own design in now. The other thing that you can do is work over the top of your watercolour. So I could have washed over this first with various colours and then worked over the top once it was dry, and that's a really good way to work if you haven't got permanent pens. So if you haven't got a permanent pen, then you can work over the top once everything's dry, and you don't have to worry about it getting wet or not, because you're not going to work anymore on top of it. Trying to be a little bit random with these dots. You can find that you start doing them quite symmetrical to each other, and all of a sudden it looks a bit odd, so do try and keep these a little bit more random. Getting a bit bored of doing dots. Let's join these up with some lines now. Quite stop myself there, could I? Tiny little dots. Right, so to finish it off, once you've got it all done, just come in with your rubber and all those pencil lines, just come and rub all those pencil lines out. A lot of them you won't see anymore because you'll have worked over them, but especially where you've put lots of fine dots, go for it. Visit my website for more art resources and tutorials. Look out for part 2 of this video.